Welcome to TGIF, and our word of the day is chaos.
Whoa, that is a word that I think so many of us often say we're in the midst of. I mean, when you ask people how they're doing, a lot of the times we get the answer busy. I'm so busy, or I'm overwhelmed. Maybe they're just basically saying they're having a little bit of chaos in their life.
Yeah, and chaos comes from us when we look globally or whether we look into our family. So chaos is all around us, and Daniel is no different. Daniel's living through a time which there's plenty of chaos, and so we're looking at Daniel chapter 11, verses 33 through 35.
Wise leaders will give instruction to many, but these teachers will die by fire and sword, or they will be jailed and robbed. During these persecutions, little help will arrive, and many who join them will not be sincere. And some of the wise will fall victim to persecution. In this way, they will be refined and cleansed and made pure until the time of the end, for the appointed time is still to come.
Kind of up and down with how that message, because we want to be the wise leaders. We all want to be those wise leaders, spiritually grounded, living a righteous life, and giving instructions to others. But it says that some will fall. I mean, it says some of the wise will fall victim to persecution, and that's what we don't want. Nobody wants to go through persecution. And so this is like trying to prepare us for the things to come. And I think that that's why chapters 7 through 11 is some of the most complex prophetic material in the Bible. When you look at some of the scholars and what they've looked at these chapters, they're some of the most complex there is, because we don't understand all of it, because we can't necessarily see the spiritual battles that are going on that we can't. We can see the beastly empires that come before us here on earth and have come and gone and will continue to come and go. But we don't see those angelic battles going that are kind of behind the scenes, outside of our purview. And so when we get through some of this, we begin to understand that God has a bigger plan, and God knows a lot more than we do. We only see what's right in front of us, and we see it for a very short period of time. And so God's plan for Daniel is to remain firm. It's not a survival of the strongest. Sometimes we think, well, if I'm just strong enough. It is not. It is truly a survival of those who act faithfully in the chaos. And so if you have chaos in your life right now, that should be encouraging.
Right, because we all do. It's almost like you can say, are you focusing on obedience in the midst of chaos? Yeah. You know, it's not about being strong and getting all the answers and fixing everything, but are you being obedient, not to the chaos and not to whatever is driving you insane in your life at the moment, but the obedience to God in the midst and being strong.
Yeah. And chapter 7, it focuses that. It says, this is God's kingdom, and God's kingdom will reign forever. So there's a promise. If you're ever wondering where are the promises in the Bible, there's the promise. That kingdom will remain forever. Chapter 8 then begins to look at the human pride. And as it goes through the struggles, human pride always seeps up to the top somehow, and we have to be humbled again before the divine power. And then chapter 9 pulls us into that mercy. And thank goodness that even when our pride is too big, God's mercy is bigger, and that covenant of faithfulness endures. His plan reigns forever, so we can be humbled, but the chaos doesn't necessarily go away. Because in chapter 10, it's God strengthens his people amid the spiritual battles, which we can't see. We don't know what spiritual battles, what kind of blocks and tackles are going on in the spiritual realm that God is protecting us from. We just look at this and we're like, oh man, this is just crazy. We get depressed over it, and that's not. And then chapter 11 circles us back in, preparing us for chapter 12, which is our last one. Those who know God remain steadfast. And I think that's the message here in Daniel. We have seen Daniel from a teenager, and as he has progressed and stayed faithful, not stayed arrogant, not stayed, in Nebuchadnezzar's face or any of the other kings will come along. He stays faithful to God, and a calmness. And that doesn't happen on your own. You've got to have God at your center for that.
And that's exactly what I was thinking as we were processing through this. Calm in chaos. How can you be calm in chaos? It's what you're focusing on and what's giving you the power, because the battles are real. Yeah. Earthly battles are real. Sure.
God strengthens his people, though, always strengthens them. And so we've got to remember, how do we get our strength? Where's our strength come from? Not us, because this isn't about if I'm strong enough. It's about God's strong enough. So his strength comes through the scriptures, comes through the Bible. Daniel is a faithful prayer. He's a prayer warrior. When it comes to prayer, he is faithful in prayer. And he's always submitting everything in his life to God. If he doesn't have, it's okay. If he does have, it's okay. It's like he is able to stand in that space and say, whatever I have, I know it's from you, God, and that's okay. So he doesn't allow the chaos of getting ahead or solving all the problems, but just remaining faithful. And so we have to take this vision that Daniel is looking at as a calling in our own lives to remain courageous in a world that is shifting. We talk about right now, we are going through so many political shifts, so much wars and rumor of wars, and then we automatically think of Revelation, but that's always been going on. It truly has always been going on. It's how do the people of God react? And Daniel's a perfect example of how to respond.
It's if we looked at our chaotic situation and maybe asked God, what is our calling in this chaos? Because think about the world and all the things going on. If you go in, government or just all the things in your own community, in your own home, if you're focusing on the chaotic that's happening, because it's good and not good, right? It's a combination, but saying, God, what's my calling in the chaos? Can I be committed and obedient to you and looking for my calling? Because this too will pass. We know that. We know the end of the story, and we know we are going to have battles, but Jesus has already came and won them all for us, but we get so wrapped up in all of it. Just to take a deep breath and say, what's my calling in this chaos?
Because remember where Daniel was. Daniel was in Jerusalem, and God needed him in Babylon. You're not going to just go willingly. And so that effort that God, to get Daniel there and for him to remain strong is amazing. And so I think when we talk about commitment in the chaos, what are you committed to? God's word daily, God's word only on Sunday. God's word, it's got to be in you. And I don't know how else to explain it, that you've got to absorb these stories, and so when you're in this chaos, you can just think, oh yeah, I remember when Daniel was up against Nebi.
So you can remain humble, because I think commitment is a great word, but sometimes we're committed to the chaos. We thrive. I think human nature thrives on chaos sometimes, and in the chaos of the world, we want our voice to be heard, because remember, we are right? As humans, we like to be right, and if we think we're right, we're more committed to proving that in the midst of all of this versus being committed and obedient to God in the calling he has on our life in the midst.
That's a good word.
So the question we leave you with, what is one small way you can act and reveal your faith in the chaos of the world?
Wow.
Breathe and don't say anything, and count to 10 before you do it, and go to God. All right, reflect on that. And for next week, we'll wrap up Daniel. Go ahead and read chapter 12. Make it a great week. See you next time on TGIF. Bye.